Maybe I can ask a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Which is, when we were in graduate school, my first semester, I think, was your beginning of your final year, or can you hear me okay? Mm-hmm. Or maybe your first year in what came to be known as the Tony Hoaglandl fake PhD program, where fiction writers and poets in the MFA program who wanted to keep their TA would get into the rhetoric PhD program, and then keep taking programs and Pathfinder, right? Many people follow. Anyway, what I remember is that I started out as a poet, and we were in Jody Stewart's workshop together, and what was clear from the get-go was that you were the model for the serious student. It was a huge MFA program, and a lot of people weren't serious. And Tony was the model for, here's the serious student who is passionate. It was surprised to hear he was opinionated. And I remember talking to one of our peers that sort of teased you during the workshop before we really knew each other, and Kath Catalani said to me, I was really surprised you did that. We're all sort of afraid of Tony. But I realized it was because you came ready to engage in some serious way. So now, 30 years later, we've taught at 4 different institutions together and still teach at a couple together, and I feel like you still got that fire. And my question is, is that fire merely the product of deep psychological wounds, or can you maybe tell us how you keep that flame burning?
Well, thank you. I don't remember myself being frightening, although a little intense maybe. I certainly was not especially talented. I think I had to work really, really hard at poetry and had to figure stuff out, because there were really talented people in that program we were in. There was Leon Lee, who already sort of had a sort of, halo, and he was very gifted at making images. It was a sort of, talent or gland that he was born with, and there were other people who just, who had the music, and I didn't have especially anything except, my wounds and my weird idea that poetry was going to have an answer. Poetry had the answers, that poetry. So I don't think I had other systems to fall back on in a weird way. It sounds kind of like romantic, but to you, family has always been terrifically important, and you've made this fantastic family of your own. You are foolishly loyal, deeply, deeply loyal. You have some kind of sense of a region you come from, whether it's Kentucky or Yuma, a place I've lived too, and other things like that. Whereas I have almost no sense of family. I don't come from a particular region. Certainly sort of no particular ethnic or religious identification. And when poetry came to me, it was I was in a very kind of impoverished state of disorientation when I was in high school, and so those poets, they really became my family. They became, Philip Larkin and Frank O'Hara and Ray Carver and all those people. They became sort of the reference points for how to relate to the world, and how to bear it, how to process it, how to think, how to feel, all those things. So in a way, I'm like a boy in a bubble. Poetry became sort of like a, kind of the oxygen. And in some ways, it's still a reliable source of reasons to live, and also, ways to have fun. So, but it's true. I think I've kept my fire by teaching a lot. you know, and by teaching, remembering for myself, even if my students aren't listening, you know, why this is a humanly important activity. And I have a foolish conviction, you know, that a poet is still going to sort of, you know, as my personal neuroses have receded to some degree, and my self-importance has shrunk a little thanks to hemorrhoidal medication. I still feel like poetry is important to, you know, it's important to the world. It's important to human nature being deeper and better and more self-knowing. And I still have this idea that some Bruce Springsteen figure is going to arise from the ground of American poetry, you know, write the poem, you know, that Americans have been waiting for, that is going to be hugely, vastly celebrated, and we're going to become a country of poetry readers, instead of all the unpleasant things, all the insensitive bastards that we really are,
It happens.
Yeah, thanks. So I don't know. I haven't found anything better, to sort of believe in,